Welcome to another podcast with a Cosmic Hour. I'm Astro Krys and I'm joined by Emma. Hi, Emma.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am good. I'm excited to talk about the Sun Ingress Taurus and our special about the bullish market and the Jupiter Uranus conjunction and all this good stuff that's happening during Taurus season. So I'm excited to talk about this today.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening this month.
Yay! Awesome. Great. So let's get started because we have lots to talk about. So, first, Taurus. This is a Taurus glyph. Now, Taurus is represented by the constellation of the Bull. And I wanted to bring this up. We usually don't cover the constellations whenever we talk about the sun ingressions, but I just thought this would be interesting to bring up because in finance, bullish means a market that has the conditions to have fruitful returns. So they're expecting prices to rise. So you're going to have a good return on your investments, whether it's investing in the stock market or in Bitcoin. So we're going to invest in something that we believe will increase in its value. And that's what they consider a bullish market. They're expecting it to bear good results. And I find that word, that term, very interesting because Venus rules money and Venus in Taurus has that connection to the bull. So it's a bullish market. Interesting. I wonder if it had anything to do with Venus ruling the bull and money that they came up with that term. Now, the opposite of bullish is a bearish market. And this is when the conditions of the market are expected to fall and they don't believe that the investments will be fruitful because now we're going to see everything be bare. There's so it's like, like winter when there's not a lot of fruit growing, right? So this is when we're expecting the returns on our investments to not be as giving, and we're going to be more cautious with what we invest. Now, we are going to be talking about investing and predictions about finance and money and things like that. We're not financial advisors. Anything that we say is just for entertainment purposes. And if you decide to invest based on whatever we say, that is something you are deciding to do. We are just here to talk about our opinions and our interpretation of what we see. And we are covering financial astrology based on our expertise. Again, this is not advice. And we will put that in the disclaimer because you will need to see your own financial advisor to get that financial advice. However, this information I think can be useful and you can share it with them. Maybe they can find some use with it. Okay, great. So let's move on to the next slide.
Yeah, so the energy of Taurus. Taurus is it's the second sign of the zodiac and it is a fixed earth sign. Like Chris mentioned, it is ruled by Venus, which Venus is the planet of love, beauty, money, and the material wealth. So the energy of Taurus is very grounded, sensual, steadfast, and also stable because it is an earth sign and it's really rooted in the physical and the material world. So that's why also Taurus are all about stability and security. Like Taurus need or crave that to have a solid foundation in their lives. And whether that's through their career, their finances, or relationship, they're always working towards making things rock solid, right? Um, that's why also Taurus is very determined and they have a lot of perseverance. So when they set their mind onto something or once they set their sight on a goal, they are very determined to achieve it. Um, Their symbol is the bull. So Taurus is represented by the bull, which represents resilience and also stubbornness. So Taurus makes for very stubborn people. There's an expression, I think it's called like stubborn as a bull, right? So once they make up their mind about something, it's very hard for Taurus to change their mind, and they can be very resistant to change also, which can be sometimes good or bad depending. Um, but also with that stubbornness and resistant to change, I think Taurus is also very loyal. They make for very loyal people, and they're also really great at manifesting. The energy of Taurus, because they have that patience and perseverance, to they can manifest basically whatever it is that they want. Another word also that I associate with Taurus is luxurious. um I don't know, yeah, it's not on the slide, but I think luxurious is a good representation of Taurus because, like I mentioned, it is ruled by Venus, the planet of beauty and money. And so Taurus has like an appreciation for the finer things in life. They appreciate their comfort also a lot, and they like to be surrounded by nice things and enjoy like really good food, nice art, fine clothing, fine fabric. um, it's not really in a flaunting materialistic way, but it's more in a sense of like a creating sense of comfort and security. Also, I think Taurus is very connected to the senses, like the touch, taste. Yeah, it's connected to the sensory, the senses. Anything you want to add, Chris?
No, I think you covered mainly like everything. So good. I love it. Great. Let's move on. I mean, we can always add some more, but we have like so much to cover. So I think
Yeah.
that's good. So now let's get into the Sun ingress Taurus. So this marks the beginning of the Taurus season. And this is happening on April the 19th at 7 a.m. PST. It'll be at 10 a.m. EST. And this is happening right in the morning. So that's pretty cool. Usually, we don't have the sun like turning like signs, like changing signs right in the morning. Sometimes it happens in the afternoon, like when Aries, the sun went into Aries, it was actually in the afternoon, in the evening. So this time around, we kind of start with the sun really strong in a Taurus sign. This is a good sign. Is one of the indicators that Hellenistic astrologers used to use. Like, is it right in the morning? Like, even though they wouldn't use the term of the sun as a morning star, they would still give the sun a lot of dignity because it was starting off the day with the sign change, where the sun is starting off the day in being born in a new sign. So that also shows the strength of the season. Um, we also have a Virgo moon on that day, and it's Earth to Earth. So it's making a sign trine, and Jupiter and Uranus are also in the same sign as the sun. So there's a lot of Earth energy, and really strongly placed in the chart is Pluto, right? On top, making a square to the sun. So some of us will feel that intensity of Pluto come through. Pluto always magnifies, especially in people's personalities. So the season's going to be really intensified. Um, Even though Aries season had a lot of things going on, there was a lot of events. I mean, we're still in Mercury retro as we're recording this. There's still a lot of things happening during this season. We just, past the eclipse, things like that. Um, Taurus season also has a lot of events in this year. So Aries and Taurus season are one of the busiest in this 2024 year for us. And the season starts just reflecting that. We still have a lot of Aries energy. We have Venus and Mercury forming a conjunction as well, and they're really close to the nodes. And Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So you see the ruler of the sun forming a conjunction to the ruler of the current moon, which is in Virgo. So that's also very positive. There you see them in harmony, and they're really close to the eclipse point. The eclipse happened at 19 degrees. They're not at the point yet, but they're very close. And we're going to be talking about these points over and over because lots of things are happening around these dates. So let's move on to the next slide. All I can say about the season is that it starts very promising. There's a lot of abundance and fruitfulness to the season, but you're going to get to know the season a little more with the rest of the information we provide.
Okay, so now the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's happening on April 20th. So Jupiter is in astrology is called the Great Benefic. It is the planet of expansion, growth, abundance, blessings, while Uranus is the planet of change, disruption, rebellion, also sudden breakthroughs and insight. It's also very innovative, it's revolutionary. It likes to shake things up, basically. So when these two planets meet, we can expect basically Jupiter to expand everything that Uranus represents. And so in this conjunction is happening in the sign of Taurus, and we can expect major breakthroughs and shifts in the realm of finances, financial markets, and but also technological advancements, right? Uranus is like a shake up or wake up call, basically, to everything that has to do with money, with our finances, and also related to Mother Earth, because Taurus, yes, it has to do with anything with money and the financial markets, but it's also really a grounded sign and connected to the Earth. So there's also potential for breakthroughs regarding agriculture, sustainable living, or new innovative ways when it comes to farming and the way that, like, the food supply, basically. But also it could mean a lot of exaggerated changes in the weather or weather patterns as well. But more on a personal level, I think we can expect also some surge in innovative ideas, like kind of like having those light bulb moments where we get those really strong, like intuitive downloads out of nowhere. Because Uranus is like the planet of genius, right? Like, so it has the potential to bring really creative genius ideas. And like I mentioned, like technological advancements is going to take another level. Now I'm gonna leave it up to Chris to talk about like the DNA awakening and the quantum leaping that she has on this slide.
Yes. So Uranus rules Aquarius and Jupiter rules Pisces. Now, both of these signs are very spiritual in nature. And although Emma covered more of the tangible aspects of the Jupiter and Uranus expression, because they do have that side to them, there's also a very spiritual side to them as well. Uranus rules like the collective and the collective knowing. And this is how we're going to get this combination of the collective awakening. And within that, it's going to awaken information that we already have, like intelligence that we already have within us, that's in our DNA. But we're going to be able to tap into this. It's going to be much more easier for us to tap into it. And, there's a lot of things that are kind of catapulting us right now, especially even with the eclipse that just happened in conjunction to Chiron. It's kind of setting forth, and now we're having this Jupiter Uranus conjunction that's kind of quantum leaping us too. And we already have these tools. They're kind of dormant. A lot of our DNA is not explained. They don't know what it's for. They don't know the uses. So I think as new things within science, and that's another aspect of Uranus that it rules. Um, um, we're finding out more things about us and how we function, and we're going to see that we're going to be able to utilize more of us. And this is going to open our third eye more, which is now the connection to the spiritual realm, and that's Pisces, and that's the energy that Jupiter rules. So this is where it kind of can break those barriers, break things that we were kind of closed into before, based on, religious paradigms and religious beliefs that we had before, governmental beliefs. Like, we're really evolving from that. And I come from a very religious background in nature, and I really do hold on to it. I actually really do believe in it, yet I like to evolve it and put my own twist and, you know, thought in it. And I think that's the awakening um that I have come to conclusion because of my own experience. And I feel a lot of people as a collective, we're going to be able to have these like awakenings, especially if you have any planets around this 21-degree mark, no matter where, even if you don't have planets 21 degree in Taurus, but just say you have planets near 21 degrees, it's going to make an aspect of sorts. So you're going to have Jupiter and Uranus aspecting you somehow, whether it's a square, a sextile, a trine, even in conjunction or a semi-sextile. You're getting direct energy from these two meeting up, and it's not just sending you information through the material, but also through the spiritual. And this is also activating the Kundalini within. So you're going to get a lot of energetic, like healing and energy, just because of this combination. Like, these two rule the most spiritual signs in astrology, which is Aquarius and Pisces. Not to say the other signs are not spiritual, because there's other signs that are also very spiritual too, but the last two are the ones that are really focused on faith, based on the connections that they have and how they're connected to the collective, and also how they're connected to like a bigger meaning to life, like bigger faith. So that's the reason why whenever they come together, they just change how humanity responds and how humanity thinks, and they evolve a lot. Uranus is the mad scientist. So now you bring science and spirituality, and you really reinvent the wheel. So now let's go to the next slide, which is the Uranus and Jupiter conjunction. And this is happening on, ooh, I forgot to mark the date. Maybe Emma could look for it while I start talking about the chart. So I know it happens on 420, but I forgot the exact time that it happens. It has to be in the afternoon sometime, because the sun's already going into the seventh house. So when Jupiter and Uranus conjunct, it happens to be in the eighth house in this chart. And this is going to be casted for Los Angeles, because that's where I'm located. So what we're looking at to see is how harmonious this is. And you see that the moon is in Virgo. Just as the ingress happened with the sun going into the sign of Taurus, you can notice that the sun's just at 1 degrees at this point. So shortly after, we have the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So it didn't take much, right? Like a day later, we have the Jupiter conjunction to Uranus. So the moon didn't move much. It's still in a very grounding sign. It's still in Virgo. So it's still making a trine. Now it's a separating trine because the moon's about to go into the sign of Libra, but yet it's still in the sign of Virgo. So it's still a trine by house. And we still have the planets in Aries, Venus, and Mercury still in conjunction. They're already separated, but the rulers of both the ascendant and the moon are still in rulership. And now in this chart, Venus is ruling the ascendant, the south node, and the sun itself. Emma, were you able to get the time?
Yes, I'm getting the time now. It's around 7. I'm gonna tell you in a bit.
Okay, great. So I'll keep going until you get the time. We also have Mars at 22 degrees making a sextile to the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, which Mars, whenever it makes a sextile to Jupiter, it's a really good, especially for financial astrology. So, because we're focusing on financial astrology, whenever we see Mars pushing Jupiter, this is good to build abundance. Now, it's good for speculation because Mars likes to take risks, and Jupiter is a definite risk taker. Like it's like the ultimate gambler. So when you have Mars that trusts his instincts in the sign of Pisces, which is a Jupiter based sign, making a sextile to Jupiter and Uranus. And Uranus is another one that's very unpredictable, really connected to the markets as well, because it likes that unpredictability of going up and down and things like that. You see that it's really good for the markets. Now, it all depends on what it is that you're investing because there's always a balance, right? There's some markets that are going to go down, so the other ones could go up. So you have to look at what these signs rule. So now we're looking at water and earth. So the markets that are going to benefit most are going to be more like markets that are connected to the Pisces archetype and the Taurus archetype, and also the planets that are involved, which is whatever is ruled by Mars and whatever is ruled by Jupiter and Uranus. So let's like point something out. Of course, cryptocurrency, because we have money being ruled um by Taurus, and banks, the banking industry of all sorts, any type of technology, any type of cattle, any type of food, agriculture, because that's all ruled by Taurus and Virgo as well. Any type of service industry that's ruled by Virgo. Another thing ruled by Mars, it would be any type of industry that is like using heavy machinery. So that's going to be like steel, especially if they're melting things because that's the energy of water. We're looking at petroleum because that's connected to Pisces. We're looking at things that are international, things that are connected to sea life, things that are connected to marine life, or cleaning the ocean, or things that are sometimes, we don't consider, I mean, at least I don't consider as ethical, like drilling for oil, but it's just gonna thrive. Um, are they gonna be super successful? I think they're gonna be more steady because Saturn is there. So you won't see like a big, huge catapult in profits, but you will see a steady rise. And even now, I think I'm seeing a slow climb in gas prices. I don't know, Emma, have you noticed gas prices go up in where you're living? But I know.
Yes. Yes, and I was actually talking to my sister about that today.
Yeah. So we prepared for this literally like 2 weeks before we recorded. And I had already made this prediction, like, okay, gas prices are gonna go up. And just yesterday, over here, it's 505.
Oh, I was
Yeah.
complaining that it's 370 here, and I was complaining. And I'm in where I live, it's more suburban versus when I'm in like downtown Miami, like it's more expensive. So I prefer to do gas by my house. And I was complaining that where I live, it's already at 370 and you're at 5. Wow.
Well, we haven't even had 370 in like, I don't know, since like 2018. Like,
Oh my God.
like, like I don't even know when. Like, I'll welcome 370 back. Like, yeah,
Oh,
it's 505. We've been in the fours, in the like $4 range since I think 2020. Hmm. And I'm in Los
yeah.
Angeles, California.
Reached
Yeah.
4, but then you went back down, and now it's almost back at 4. Back in, I think in downtown, like Yeah, closer to the city center, it's $4, but where I live, it's 370. And I'm like, what? Like it used to be last month it was 330.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll drive to Miami and drive back to fill it up my gas. Yeah, right.
So I
No,
did find the time of the conjunction. I'm in EST time, so I had to convert to your time because we're doing your time. So it's actually at 6:02 Los Angeles time.
and then your time will be 9:02 then.
9, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, 6:02 is when the conjunction happens, and 9:02 in Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, those are that's what I expect. I mean, it's still gonna be very fruitful if you have any investments in those industries. You're gonna see it's still gonna climb. It's still, I mean, Neptune is still in Pisces, so you're still gonna see those industries, pharmaceuticals, even pharmaceuticals, hospital industry, with a tad of technology. And I'm seeing this more and more, like telehealth is a big thing now. Everything's pushing telehealth. It's going to continue to push. They're actually trying to change and do more security measures because even in the health industry, there's been a lot of fraud with people using, other people's insurance and things like that. And I know that doctors did enjoy um, the telehealth um, option for their patients. However, one of the biggest concern was, for insurance was fraud. And I know that with Uranus, Uranus is actually making a aspect to Mars and Saturn. There's going to be more measures on protection, on how to protect, the systems. Saturn is the system itself. Like it doesn't just represent government. It represents the the company and authority, right? So it's like the company itself that's in authority, so it can benefit the company as well. And taking action on that. So you're going to see that a lot of the companies that are kind of moving into telehealth because it's more cost effective, they're also going to have a lot of more like, set in place security measures so they can, first respond to their stockholders and be able to show, um, their quarterly profits and how it is that they're going to perform and they're expecting to perform and why they need to continue or they should invest more in their company, and their innovative processes that they're coming up with, and also how they're also going to serve their patients because ultimately that's what these companies are for, because it's all about service. So you see, like, you see this big thing, but Neptune is, I mean, playing a big part. It's opposition to the moon. So there's also something that's not really being too clear, not just, it's not disclosed too well. We're missing something. There's a big piece that we're not seeing too clearly. So we need to watch it really clear. If you're gonna make some type of investment, I would recommend that you do your research and you take 3 times, like again, like if you're gonna take action, you're like, I'm gonna do it now. Stop, take a moment, do research. Again, I'm gonna do it now. Stop, take a moment, do research. Oh, okay, now it's the time. Do it again 3 times. Why? I believe third time's a charm. 3 times belongs to the energy of Jupiter. And this allows you, and also we're in Mercury retrograde, so you want to return. Mercury does 3 times too. Goes one time forward, goes back, and then goes forward again, right? You want to do 3 times to just double check, triple check. So you want to do that since also Neptune is giving like an opposition to the moon, and the moon represents the people. You want to make sure that what you do is correct. Even selling stuff, like, hey, this is the time I want to sell my investments. You you want to make sure you don't just sell something and then the next day it's worth way more money. You're like, dang it, I shouldn't have done it. So just think about it, right? Do your research. You also have the sun making that square to Pluto, and Pluto's all about research. So that's how you want to do your research. You want to make sure that you're truly informed. Um, but follow your instinct as well. Pluto is about instinct. So at the same time, you're researching and you're following your gut feeling, and that's not going to leave you astray.
Yeah, and so the signs who will feel this Uranus Jupiter conjunction the most will be if you have any planets, I'm sorry, not any planets, if you have your sun, moon, or rising in between 18 to 26 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, you guys will feel this conjunction the most. You will be most impacted by it. Um, if you have Pisces, Cancer, Virgo, and Capricorn will get a more positive push because the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is going to either sextile or trine your big three. So that's a nice positive aspect. And the signs who are in charge actually are Aries and Pisces. And that's because Jupiter and Uranus are meeting up in Taurus, and the ruler of Taurus is Venus, and Venus is right now in Aries. So that's why Aries is in charge of this conjunction. And what's ruling Aries is Mars, and Mars is in Pisces. So those signs are the ones that are going to be in charge and really like feeling this conjunction.
Yeah, so like just say you have like your sun in Aries or your sun in Pisces. You're gonna feel like you're more in control of the energy. You're gonna be like it's more in your element versus if you have your sun in Sagittarius or your sun in Libra. It's not gonna feel as aligned to you because first it's not making one of those aspects like a sextile and a trine. So it doesn't mean it won't benefit you. It's just not going to be as like synchronized to you because it's not making that aspect and you don't have the ruler of the aspect in your sign either. So even though the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is not happening in the sign of Pisces or Aries, you're still kind of getting the benefit if you're Aries or Pisces because you're ruling the conjunction. But Taurus, I mean, if you're a Taurus sun, moon, or rising, you have planets between 18 to 26, then you're actually getting the conjunction. So that's really strong. So yeah, let us know if you have that conjunction. Lucky you. I have a friend that her birthday, I think, is like the day before the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So on her solar return, she has it really strong. Yeah. And I was like, oh, how cool. I mean, for my solar return, I end up having a good sextile to it. So I'm really excited for mine too. I'm a Pisces, so it turned out really well, but I don't have like the exact conjunction. So I was like, oh, lucky you. The only thing I was glad is I dodged the Sun Neptune Cazimi. So I was like, yes. Thank you, universe.
I feel like Tauruses or the ones that are very close to that conjunction are gonna get like massive awakening of some sort. Like downloads are gonna come pouring at them. I remember when I had Uranus square my sun, I'm an Aquarius sun. 2 years ago, I had that square, and I think that's when one of the things that happened around that time was that I found astrology and started studying astrology, and I was mind blown by all of this, and I was like, "What?" Like to me, this was like another world that I had just discovered.
Yes, it's like a new language and a new dimension because as you start clicking with these new people and then they speak this language, you're like, what the heck? Where were all these people before? Like, OMG. And then like life is no longer like the meaning of life is not the same anymore. It's just
Yeah,
and there's just so much more meaning to it. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna invest my money on all this makeup. And yeah, you still prioritize like everything you like, but now you like so much more things that you're like, no, like I value my time in, this group, or getting to know these group of people that are into astrology, or, buying this book, or learning this, about astrology through this course, because it's just so mind blowing. And I'm not just saying this because I want you to like, purchase something that I sell. No, like you don't have to buy anything from me. You can go and buy something for someone else. You're just going to be mind blown with astrology because that's what it does. And actually, I believe that both Jupiter and Uranus rule astrology. And this is actually the astrologer's aspect. So, in astrology, so in Vedic astrology, you want to see a strong Jupiter. So the Vedic astrology always analyzes to see if you have a strong Jupiter, and they call him guru. So you want to see if he's placed well in your chart, because then it'll show that you have the potential to be an astrologer. And guru is a guide, right? We know already, like they regard him, or they regard a guru a lot in yoga, right? Like, oh, you have a good guru that taught you yoga. But gurus teach other things too, like Ayurveda. They also teach astrology. They also teach other things too, like they have their own branches of healing. And India is one of the ancient countries that still teaches astrology. It's like within their culture still. Yeah, there, some people are not practicing it, but it's one of the countries that still regards it a lot. They still continue with that tradition. Um, so you want to see that you have a strong Jupiter in your chart to see if you are going to be a really good astrologer, because I believe that anyone can learn astrology. However, to be a good astrologer, or to want to be a good astrologer, um, you do have to have certain planets in your chart, because there's a difference between learning the language and also being able to serve in that language. So let me give you an example. I speak another, like okay, I speak like English, right? We're speaking English here. That doesn't mean I'm an English teacher, right? So I can speak English, but that doesn't mean I'm going to teach you English. So the same thing with astrology. You can learn astrology, you can be your own astrologer, you can be really amazing, but then that doesn't mean that you're going to be an astrologer, because you have to have certain skills to do that. You have to be able to counsel people, and you have to just be able to love it, like really love it. And you'll see it in the chart, like you just know that this is for you, like you feel it in your heart, and you'll see Jupiter really connected in your chart. The next thing is you see Uranus connected in your chart. And if you have Jupiter and Uranus making an aspect, it's a slam dunk, because your Uranus will make your Jupiter weird as fuck. And the minute your Jupiter is weird as fuck, it likes astrology. It's like, tell me more. I just want to know more. Um, and if it's not connected in that way, you'll see it in a different connection. Like for Emma, I can tell you, Emma has a connection, and it's a little different, because you see her connection where she's a Aquarius sun, so that's already a Uranus ruled sign, right? But then she has Uranus in Capricorn, and then all her Capricorn energy trines her Jupiter. So you still you see everything kind of bounce back, like, so you see a lot of that back and forth, and you just know like, oh, this is it. And the ruler of her ascendant is Mercury, and it makes an exact trine to your Jupiter, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. Like, I remember when I first did her reading, I was like, you're meant to be an astrologer. Like, you're just gonna do it. And you're like, really? I was like, yeah, you're just gonna love it. And from that point, like, I was like, you're just gonna grasp this stuff like nothing. You're not. And there's other people that have come to me, and I just know, and they really, really try, but they can't memorize the stuff. Like, they just, and they've been studying with me for a very long time, and they haven't learned it as easy as others are able to learn it, and you can just see it. And that's the same thing. Like astrology to me was just like second nature. And I have Uranus conjunct my south node. It's in Sagittarius. The ruler of my chart is Jupiter. I have Uranus trine my Mercury. Like there's a lot of things, and it actually makes a grand trine to my ascendant. So Uranus does a lot of stuff in my chart that I was just weird from the beginning. So yeah, whenever you have this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, it really talks about it's in the astrologers aspect. So we're gonna see a lot of astrologers awaken during this
Yeah,
time.
that's what I was gonna ask you. Like, do you think this is going to, I mean, astrology has started to become popular for the past 5 years now again. So I was like, do you think we're gonna see, more astrologers coming and more mm, how do I say this? Like, be astrology being more like normalized and used more in our everyday lifestyle? Because before it was kind of like a hush thing, like, or being seen as like weird, or oh my god, you believe in that thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest awakening that happened was when Uranus conjunct Neptune. And that is like, I think that happened in Capricorn. Uranus
Yeah, when I
conjunct,
was born.
yeah. The Uranus conjunct Neptune in Capricorn. That was the biggest awakening. And because Neptune is the modern ruler of Pisces. Um, and from that point, because we always have this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, but we don't always have a Uranus Neptune conjunction. That's more rare because of their speed. They don't travel as fast, versus Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the zodiac signs, right? So we're gonna have a Jupiter Uranus conjunction about every 14 years in different zodiac signs, but we're gonna have it every 14. Like the next time this happens again, it's gonna be in Gemini, then in Cancer, then in Leo. Um, but with Neptune and Uranus, that's not going to be the case. Like Uranus has to go all the way, like, it has to go all the way around the zodiac and catch up to Neptune again. Um, so it takes longer. And I think from there, that point, that's when we see, because a lot of the Capricorn stellium people, you're seeing them, um, like yourself, um, really come out and want to be astrologers, right? And that's where I see the biggest. And I also see it with the what is the other aspect that I saw the most? Shoot. Um I forget. Oh my God, it's not coming to my head. So you're gonna help me out. When Uranus was in Pisces and Neptune was in Aquarius, what is it? Mutual reception. So that, which I think that's gonna be
That's
Gen
yeah,
Z,
yeah, part of it. Yeah,
right?
the late nine. I think that's the late 90s, early 2000s,
Yes, yes, that's
early 2000s.
another. Yes, and they're really, I mean, that's the TikTokers, right? Right now, that's the
Mm-hmm.
TikTokers right now. They're all into it. They're making astrology boom, and it's being more accepted right now. And it's really because of them. So it's
Yeah.
both, the Capricorn stellium putting it out there, and we see a lot of the Uranus Sagittarius, which that's me, that's my generation. So we didn't have my generation didn't have the Uranus Neptune conjunction, but we were born with Uranus and Neptune and Sagittarius. They didn't conjunct until they got to Capricorn, but we already had them in the same sign. So um it started with us. It just didn't perfect until Capricorn. So a lot of us are interested in astrology. It perfected in Capricorn. Then they went into mutual reception. So then we're having like these like reminders of like, remember, because now Neptune is still in a sign of spirituality. So it just continues. And then now we're having Pluto in Aquarius. So it's just going to continue even more. Like Pluto is now going to go through the signs that Neptune already traveled through, that Uranus already traveled through, you know, and that's gonna he still has all the way to go until Aries until he starts a new cycle. So we have a lot more years. We're gonna grow way more. And I think that goes back into what we talked about last episode when we were talking about Dolores Cannon and the Great Awakening and, you know, um, the 3D, shifting from 3D to 5D. And there's this book that was also written by Diana Cooper that talks about um, us completely being done with the transformation in about 50 years from now, which when you look at the outer planets, you'll see that they'll be done with the transits of Aquarius and um, Pisces. And I'm just like floored. So I'm actually really excited to see that. I remember a few years back, I was talking to you and I was like, oh, I can't wait for the Jupiter Uranus conjunction and this. And you're like, that's in 2 years from now, Chris. I was like, yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Crazy.
so yeah, I just can't wait for like a lot of the things that are gonna happen. It's really exciting to see this stuff.
I think when we're talking, when you mentioned that, I think it was the Jupiter Neptune conjunction, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. So we were dealing with that, and you were like, "Oh, I can't wait for the Uranus Jupiter."
And that was another one that was
Yeah,
awakening people more on a spiritual level, but also misinformation because Pisces tends to do that. It tends to confuse people and also unstable people if they're not really getting the information correctly. Um, the good thing with Taurus is that it's very practical. So I think it's even though Uranus doesn't do, we don't know a lot, and I think that's us that are coming into astrology. This is when we're going to be, you know, leaving information behind for future astrologers so they can then start setting their research and documenting for the next generation of astrologers, and we're talking about hundreds of years from now, for them to then depict what how the generational planets act like in certain signs. Right now we say that Uranus doesn't do well in the sign of Taurus. I mean, we could go back in history and see, but the history back then wasn't as documented as how it could be at this point from now because we're documenting everything right now. Like before we jumped on the call, we're like, okay, let's find out what time the Bitcoin having happened in 2020. It's documented. I mean, if we were talking about 50 years back, we wouldn't be able to get that information. It wouldn't be documented. So we're in the, documenting era. So this is exciting for astrologers because you can cast charts on that stuff.
yeah,
All this stuff is gonna be documented. And we're gonna be able to cast all these charts and then really find out, oh, this happened this, and look at the chart and look how this reacts. And we're really going to be able to see what it really does mean to have a planet in fall, in detriment, in exaltation, in rulership, based on the events and how the world is reacting. And that's another, conversation for another time. But I really do think the Uranus Jupiter conjunction in Taurus is going to be much more like stabilized and grounded because it's in a sign that's much more stabilized and grounded. Yet Uranus doesn't matter whatever sign it is, it's still going to cause a ruckus. Like it is what it is. It's Uranus. It rules lightning bolts, and I mean lightning still hits Earth and it still causes damage. So so I mean, it is what it is. But in the, if we talk about the demeanor and the archetype of Taurus, it is much more out of all the signs, it's a much more stable, grounded expression than other ones. So I'm kind of excited. I want to
yeah,
see
me
what
too.
happens at that point. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going into the Bitcoin chart. So this is a chart that we got from astro.com, and Bitcoin was established on January 3rd of 2009 at 6:15 p.m. and this is using universal time. Now, we're just going to discuss the energy of Bitcoin here. So it happens to have a Leo rising, a moon in Aries, which is a very young moon in Aries because it's at 4 degrees, and a sun in Capricorn. And I actually found that super interesting. Me and Emma were talking about this when we were preparing to talk about, all this stuff that we're mentioning in this podcast because we're like, wow, Bitcoin is Capricorn energy. And Capricorn energy is all about long-term investments, but the conversation around Bitcoin out there is all about getting rich quick and short-term investments. And me and Emma were like, no, Bitcoin is not short-term investments. Bitcoin is more screaming, this is a long-term thing. Now, we're not saying that you're not going to get short-term benefits from it. Yes, you will be able to attain some short-term results from it. Of course, you can see in the chart where, we have Venus exalted and Venus rules money. It's in the eighth house. So you do see some, and along with Uranus is in Pisces as well. So you do see that it has the potential to give you a lot of unpredictability in regard to money. So that's going to bring you ups and downs. So it's going to bring you that probability of giving you short-term results. But in the long term, it's more built for long-term investments. It also has a nice trine to Saturn. So it makes a trine to Saturn at 21 degrees in Virgo. And in whole signs, Saturn is falling in the second house of worth, of value. So it's talking about being more like conservative, even though Bitcoin is not a conservative expression. It's actually in retrograde. So it's working on being, I guess, in its expression, more conservative. But when you think about it, if you do approach it from a conservative point of view and you're utilizing maybe a different mentality when you're investing, then that is where you're going to practice these skills and really do attain a better outcome in regard to your investment when you're investing in this currency. Um, we also notice that Mars is exalted. So when it comes to planetary dignity, we have Venus that's exalted, and we also have Mars that's exalted. So that's actually really good. And then Mars is conjunct Pluto, so it's a very daring energy, just making the company very pioneering and action taking, but it's in the sign of Capricorn. So it's going to do things slower. It's going to take its time. It's going to be more calculating, more measuring. And one other thing that I noticed was that Jupiter is at 29 degrees in Capricorn, and that's the fall position of Jupiter. And really, Jupiter in Capricorn, the reputation of this placement is not the greatest because everyone fears having Jupiter in fall. It's not the greatest placement. Oh, you're going to struggle with money. But I've actually seen this with a lot of celebrities too, that whenever Jupiter is in Capricorn, it actually does build wealth, but it builds wealth very strategically and in the long term. And this is why Emma and I kept on saying, no, this is for long-term investment, like long-term trajectory. And this is why Bitcoin is here to stay and it's going to stay long-term. Now, there's other things going on. Maybe Emma can also talk about some stuff. I don't want to talk about everything because, Emma can also bring in her 2 cents to the Bitcoin chart.
So one of the things that we talked about earlier, Chris, was that yes, Bitcoin has that Capricorn energy for the long term, but when we look at the moon in Aries, that's making a square to Mars in Capricorn. Um, It shows with the moon representing the people, right? AKA us. It shows the square to Mars shows that impatience with the results that we're seeing with Bitcoin, and it can sometimes be a little like irritating with it and wanting to have the results fast. And I'm a victim of that, even though like I have to train my mind to be like, okay, no, you invested in Bitcoin, like think of it long term. I want the results fast and I want to cash out my profits all the time. And we can see that with the moon squaring Mars in Capricorn. It's also squaring Pluto as well. And that shows a little bit of obsession, right? With Pluto. So the ones who are really into Bitcoin, the ones who are really into Bitcoin, they can get a little bit obsessive about it and obsessive about making money fast. And you're actually the one who's always reminding me to like leave it there, don't touch it. And you have your Jupiter in Capricorn as well.
Yes.
So yeah, like you've really mastered that energy of the long term.
Yeah, that's like I guess if I can say, if I have a model, that's my model. I really learned to embrace my Jupiter in Capricorn. Um, I just know that for me, nothing's ever a Jupiter in Cancer placement. It's always been Jupiter in Capricorn. Um, so it's with this company, that's how it's going to be. Yes, you can get short-term investments. However, you're going to have to be way more proactive, especially if you're using astrology. And when you're analyzing the chart, when there's bullish periods and bearish periods, and that's more difficult to do. So you'll have to look for a financial astrologer and really have the means to invest in astrology to do this, and also have a financial advisor at the same time. So you can then really profit from this. But if you don't do that, if you don't have the means for that, you can at least invest in good periods, like when the market is well, like when it's doing, when like right when the market is leaving the bearish point and it's being predicted that it's going to pick up, you invest. So like that, you leave it there long term. And then you also have an investment plan. You don't just like put $50 in and then expect it to be $1 million. So this is another thing that we were talking about, because in analyzing a chart, a business chart, the houses still have meaning. And then the seventh house is like contracts and how the company partners with others, and also how it attracts these like the contracts with other people. Now, when you purchase Bitcoin, you're actually contracting with Bitcoin. So if you've ever purchased Bitcoin anywhere, you're agreeing to all these terms and like, policies, like they have you agree, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're purchasing it, blah, blah, blah. Yes, 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 purchase. So that's a contract at that point. That's seventh house. And if you can see at this point here, the seventh house cusp has Mercury really close, and also the North Node. And we also have Neptune. So Mercury first is making a nice sextile to the moon. So Bitcoin didn't just attract older investors, it's attracting all sorts of investors. Mercury rules kids, children. So we're having young children, um, or we can say like young adults, especially um, adults that are more inclined or that grew up with technology, because it's Aquarius energy, partner with Bitcoin, because we have the South Node conjunct to the ascendant of the company. And one of the models of the company is we're decentralized. So they no longer wanted a Leo rulership, a Leo control, the king controlling, right? That was one of the things that they kept on saying, that's decentralized. And you can also see that by the Saturn opposition Uranus signature that they have. They wanted um, no more governmental control over money in the second house to the eighth house, right? You can see that really clearly here. They wanted to break free from that, so decentralize it. So you see a lot of that signature both through the ascendant descendant axis and also the second house and the eighth house placements. In Placidus, it's looking like the third house, ninth house cusp, but in whole signs, it's actually falling in the second house and eighth house. And I use a combination of both. That's my astrology style. I don't need to change the chart. I just look at the signs and that's how I analyze the chart. So going back to um these nodes being placed there and Mercury also being very close to the axis and the nodes, you're seeing that it's attracting young investors, all sorts of investors, and the moon representing the people, making that sextile ninth, representing all over the world, right? Foreign places. It's like it has no boundaries. It's go everywhere. And even the cusp of the 10th house goes into the ninth house, right? It's not in the 10th. So it goes into the ninth. So, and it's in Aries, and the ruler of Aries is Mars and it's exalted. So it's attracting so much business and it has no limits because Rahu is there, the North Node, and it's greedy. That's the head of the dragon. It's like chomping, gimme, 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 contract, 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 money, money, money. So, one of the things that we were discussing is just imagine there's like what, like 8 billion people in the world, and just say 8 billion people, and I know not 8 billion people own Bitcoin, but just suppose 8 billion people bought $20 of Bitcoin. I mean, how much, how rich would Bitcoin be, right? If we're investing $20, all of us, like every person in the world. That's a little bit for each person, but it's a lot for the company itself. So we're having investors that are investing a lot of money. And then we're having some that are investing a little bit of money, but that little bit of money is also contributing to the company's growth. And that's when you see this Neptunian dream because Neptune is there. So this is where you get like, oh, I'm going to invest $20 and this $20 is going to turn into $1 million. So it's giving this facade of like, oh, it's going to grow so much, which it can grow to a lot of money if first you leave it there for a long time because it's Capricorn energy. So we're talking about years. You want to make it a good cycle. I want to say at least the Saturn opposition. So that's going to be at least 14 years for it to grow. You want to put some tension into that growth. Um, I would at least give it a Saturn return. So that's 30 years from the date that you invested. You want to put some tension into that growth. Why Saturn? Saturn rules Capricorn. So, and it's also well placed in this chart. Um, it's a center point of this kite configuration. Um, it's not necessarily a kite because the part of fortune, because the part of fortune is, it's not a planet, but I'm just calling it a kite because I'm also going to use the part of fortune. So I'm going with it. Either way, um, you want to give it some time to grow if you have that time. Obviously, if you're older and you're not expecting or that you can make another 30 years and you want to use another tension point like a square, 7 years or 14 years, right? 14, 15 years of that Saturn return, because you're using those cycles and those are always big. Like Jupiter, Saturn cycles are always big in business. So you want to use those tension points to have your investment grow. Even Bitcoin is using this Jupiter Saturn cycle. They're using the trine. It's not perfected, it's already separating, but in sign, it's still aspecting. We have a Virgo Saturn with a Capricorn Jupiter. So it's still aspecting. And that's when you're going to see some growth. You also have to have a plan because Capricorn and Virgo like to plan. So you can't just throw in $20, illusion, Neptune, and just let it sit and expect it to become $1 million. No, maybe you can put 20 bucks every month and eventually you're going to invest more than 20, right? Like if you add up every time you invested, but then your investment accrued a growth, right? And over time, that growth, because of the value of Bitcoin or whatever investment, this could be applied to stocks or anything else that you invest in. Um, that because of time and the growth and the return, that is what made your investment grow. So we have to get away from this Neptunian illusion. And it's a very strong illusion. And I think a lot of people are kind of being fogged with this. I don't know if you have any other things to add to that.
No, I think you explained it pretty well, and you explained it very clear also because I think like I was one of those that was part of that Neptune fog and wanted to, make money pretty fast and a lot of money. But when I really looked at the chart and I saw all that Capricorn energy, and I was like, okay, it's not going anywhere, but it's also something that like needs a plan and is going to kind of like fine wine, right? Like it gets
Yes.
better with time. So I really understood it when I really looked at the chart and I was like, okay. And then when I saw the moon in Aries squaring all that Capricorn, I was like, now I understand my feelings because I tend to get impatient when it comes to Bitcoin.
And I'm there with you because if you keep checking, you get
Yeah.
upset, you
And
know?
even on
So
Twitter, like the Twitter community, they're very expressive, I want to say, with Bitcoin's volatility. Um, and you can see it in the audience in general, like the Twitter audience, like whenever Bitcoin is like going down, they're everybody's so frustrated and everybody's like, F this, I'm done with this.
yes,
But
yes, because it is highly volatile for
yeah.
sure. But it does bring high opportunities for short-term investments, but it fluctuates so much. So you need to know what you're doing. And even the people that know what they're doing, there's still a lot of potential losses. Like I said, this is it's gambling. You're taking
Yeah.
a chance.
And
This
even with
Mhm.
that Saturn Uranus opposition, where Saturn is kind of like stability and Uranus is,
Instability.
yeah.
Yeah, it's instability. Yeah, but it's funny because what balances these two is the sun. The sun makes
Yeah.
a sextile to Uranus and it makes a trine to Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So if we channel the energy of this sun in Capricorn, right? You're able to stabilize this energy. And one of it being Saturn likes a plan. Like if it's gonna climb that mountain, how the fuck is it gonna do it? Right? It's not just gonna climb the mountain. Now, Uranus is like, we're gonna rock climb this mountain, right? Saturn's thinking more like, let's climb the mountain and sightsee, and he's doing it. But Uranus is like, oh no, we're not taking the steps. We're like taking that rocky one right here where you have to like rope it up, like extreme sports. That's what Uranus is doing. And then the sun's like, all right, we'll do a little bit of both. How does that like, are you guys okay with that? Is that good? And then when you look at that, if you are able to balance that, that's when you can tap into the part of fortune because the part of fortune is doing the same thing. It's making a sextile to Uranus and a trine to Saturn. So you have to have both, have a plan and be risky. If you don't do both, you're not going to be successful. So if you're super conservative, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
like
not
a lot
good.
of, yeah, like a lot of people are doing, right? Just putting 50 bucks, 20 bucks and like just like, oh no, I'm not doing no more. I'm just and then the minute you see it drop or whatever, you're like, I'm pulling it all out. I'm done. Uh that's super, super conservative. You're not gonna end up amassing anything because you didn't really have a plan. However, if you're able to take risk and you have, consulted with a financial advisor you have set aside, you have like a plan, you have set aside some money that you're willing to part with. And this is one of the examples that I kind of was talking to Emma about, and some of my other friends. And one of them is, my friends like to go to a lot of like concerts and have a good time and, get a couple drinks, have a good time. So every time they go out, the drink bill is like 150 for each person, because they're having like drinks, like mixed drinks, and everything's getting more expensive. Like a mixed drink is like about 15 bucks, and you have to leave a tip for the bartender, right? And every time you go to the bar, like everyone's like, oh, the round's on me. So it's five of us. We get one round, it's already $100 bill. The next person gets another round, that's $100 bill. So, that everyone, we all get a drink. It's five of us. We got five drinks. So on a Friday night, we're spending that plus a little snack. So it's 150. We didn't, that money's done. Like we just spent 150 plus the concert ticket. So just say $200, or, admission ticket wherever you go, club or whatever it is. You never got that money back. But just say you decide, you know what? I'm not doing that every Friday. Instead of doing that every Friday, I'm going to do it maybe once a month or once every other Friday. And the other 2 Fridays, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to buy myself stock or Bitcoin or this or that. And I still have that money, but I'm going to pretend I drank it away like I've been doing this whole entire time. You already parted ways with it. So you really have to part ways with it. Detach from it. That's Uranus. Really detach from it. Take it as a loss. Yet you still have an attachment to it. It's still there. But if you really detach from it, like, you know what? It is what it is. Because if I would have spent it out drinking, I really would have never seen it again, because it's already done. Like I already paid the bartender. I already consumed the drinks and the food. I already used up the concert ticket. It's done. I never get that money back, right? So if we start thinking of our future this way and we kind of depart from it, it will benefit. Now, if you're using your life savings to invest and things like that, that's totally different. This is when you don't have a plan. You're like, I'm going to take my whole entire life savings, put it here, and you lose it all. Then, oh, that's a no. So you do have to have a plan. I suggest start little. Again, seek a financial advisor. But Bitcoin is here to stay.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
it's not going anywhere. And we haven't even seen the beginning of it. Honestly, this is being called digital gold, and gold is doing great. That's another conversation for another podcast. Maybe later we can do, maybe during Leo season, we can talk about gold.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a nice idea.
yeah, we can talk about gold. Maybe Cancer season, we'll talk about silver. Silver is another commodity that's doing pretty good too. It's not going to do as great as gold, but yeah, it's doing pretty good too. Um, but yes, this is a new gold. This is a digital gold, and it's not going anywhere. And it's going to continue to see growth. You're going to see the rapid growth because of that Aries moon, and because of the combination of everything, and it's just going to continue growing. So eventually you can cash out on your profits. There's going to be points you can cash out on your profits, and you still continue to grow. There's points where you cash out and then buy back in when the market, like just say the market starts becoming bearish, you cash out. And then the minute where you see the markets becoming bullish, you buy back in. And that's how it happens. That's how you can make profit using this. But you definitely need to be working with a financial advisor, following the stock market, and obviously know the trends and things like that. So let's move on to the Bitcoin halving that happened back on May 11th of 2020. Now, the Bitcoin halving has happened a few times, but we're not going to cover all of them. We wanted to cover the most recent one that happened, and this happened on May 11th of 2020 at 7:23 with 43 seconds. Now, it's not exactly 4 years. So it happens kind of every 4 years, depending how quick, everything's being mined. And it's roughly every 4 years. The next halving is about to happen on April 19th of 2024. So it's a little bit less than the 4 year mark, but pretty close. And this was the chart for the Bitcoin halving. The biggest thing that I noticed was that we have a Jupiter, Pluto, and Moon conjunction in Capricorn. And this is big because Bitcoin already has a big stellium in Capricorn. Um, and it already has Jupiter in Capricorn natally, right? It has the sun in Capricorn at 13 degrees. It has Mars at 5 degrees of Capricorn. It had Pluto at 1 degree of Capricorn. And Jupiter and Pluto together, this aspect is called the millionaires aspect. And after this halving, the prices skyrocketed and it created millionaires. And it's funny because Pluto talks about large amount of money, and the natal Pluto of Bitcoin is conjunct this south node in the halving chart. It created new millionaires. So it's like, no, we're not, it didn't, not just new millionaires, just some other people that, had money and they also invested in it, it grew their money too, but it created a lot of new millionaires. This is why Bitcoin became like the talk of the town, because it's like, whoa, all these people gained all this money. It's like, wow, look at all the money I made. So, this is the reason why Bitcoin became the talk of the town. And the increase was astronomical. We're talking about, let me see, I had wrote this down. So in May of 2020, when the halving happened, it was 8,800. And then from there it went to what?
To 19K in December. In December it went from 19K to 30K.
So then it went to 30K.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a substantial amount.
Yeah.
That's huge. And if you had a lot of money invested, I mean,
Yeah.
that's crazy big. Now, the ruler of this chart was Mars, and because it's a Scorpio ascendant and it was in Aquarius. So it was also during that Saturn Mars conjunction. It's far, but we're also having a Saturn Mars conjunction right now. We're having it in Pisces. So back in 2020, it was in Aquarius. It happened a little after, but it's still in the same house. We still have a big Earth trine. Now we have it with a midheaven. So Bitcoin brings in Saturn and trines with all this. Saturn has it's at 21 degrees and the sun, I'm sorry, excuse me, I need a cough. Apologize. The sun is at 21 degrees here. So it brings in that, it perfects Saturn at 21 Virgo in Bitcoin's natal chart, perfects the grand trine. So, I mean, there's just too many things here too that this halving promised. And shortly after, it just blew up. So let's move to the next expected halving, which is coming up, and that's on April the 19th of 2024, which is a Friday. And this is the last day that the stock market is going to be open, because Saturday and Sunday, the New York Stock Exchange is not open. I mean, Bitcoin's always open. It's always fluctuating and changing. It's not really affecting Bitcoin, but it is going to be affecting the other market, like the other stocks and everything. So I just found it interesting that it's literally happening right before the Jupiter Uranus conjunction that happens on Saturday. So even though the Uranus Jupiter conjunction happens on Saturday, pretty much that conjunction is taking effect prior to the conjunction because the markets close on the 19th. So we're going to see the pre-effect and the after effect because they don't open until the 22nd, which would be Monday. So that we see the after effect of the conjunction and how the markets respond. But on that same day, we have the sun going into Taurus. So as soon as this happens, the halving happens, it's a Virgo ascendant, the moon's in Virgo. So again, a lot of earth energy. The part of fortune happens to be really close to Bitcoin's Jupiter. And then, so the Jupiter is perfecting this grand trine at this point. So just with that, again, we're going to see a lot of growth. Another thing, Mercury is a big indicator in the markets. Mercury actually rules the stock market. Gemini energy rules the stock market, and Mercury is a ruler of Gemini. So the natal Mercury of Bitcoin is in Aquarius conjunct Pluto. And the ruler of this MC is both, it's Mercury, both the MC and the ascendant and the moon. So Mercury is super important here. And um, both Mercury and the ruler of the sun are, which is Venus, are in Aries, being ruled by Mars. And Mars just finished that Saturn Saturn Mars conjunction. So we're gonna see again, Mars is like getting away from the commander, is like, I won this battle. And he's acting erratic and it's still making an opposition. So again, making like a little protest to this Virgo energy here. So taking action, more assertive. So we're going to see some kind of growth. Neptune is also very impactful in the markets. We see a lot of, so with Neptune, you see a lot of fluctuations, especially in like the stock indexes and things like that, and anything that's ruled by Neptune, like the sea, the petroleum, pharmaceuticals, um, what other industry? Prisons, anything that has to do with hospitals, um, any type of poisons, Mars's weapons, Saturn governments, ships is Neptune. So, uh, all those markets are going to be really unstabilized during this time. They're going to be really unpredictable. They can go one way or the other because Mars is there to just kind of cause a ruckus. Um, and we're going to see this having also impact Bitcoin itself. Um, how? I think it's for the positive because at the same time, it's making an aspect. Mars is making a sextile to Jupiter and Uranus, and Mars is a friend to Jupiter. So Mars pushes Jupiter. It's like, hey, let's go do this. Let's do this together. And Jupiter is ruling Mars. So at the same time, they're working together. And it's also making that aspect to Uranus. And this is a sextile. And Uranus is, when Mars and Uranus get together, there's some trouble. They're always causing rebellions and anarchy and fun times. So we're gonna see a huge fluctuation. I honestly think we're gonna see Bitcoin um most likely skyrocket and then go really low and then skyrocket again. That's really what I think is going to happen with this. And yeah, so some people are going to get scared when they see that. They're going to see that it goes up and then it plummets and then it goes up again with force. And that's really what happens with this type of aspect because it's unpredictable. Like you cannot predict the outcome. You just have too many aspects. And I was telling Emma, like before, Mars used to be the ancient ruler of chaos. And then when we had Uranus, join astrology when he was discovered, he was the one that was appointed to the new ruler of chaos. But Mars still has this chaotic energy to him. Like he was still the ancient ruler. Even in the tarot, he rules the Tower card. And when you look at the Tower card, it's all chaotic. It's like everything burning down. So like no matter what, like Mars is here to cause some trouble and like start from the ground up. But in when it comes to investments, you need that Mars. You need to be daring. You need to take the chances, right? Take the action so you can see results. If you don't take the action, then you're never going to see the result. That's really what it is. So in financial astrology, when you see Mercury involved, um Mercury can give you a lot of insights on how quick and fast things are going to change. And again, it's being ruled by Mars. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is both of the Bitcoin halvings together. So, the things that we're noticing, the first thing that I noticed was Jupiter conjunct the part of fortune. So the last halving is conjunct the current part of fortune. Anything else you notice?
Yeah, well, to me, the biggest thing is the Uranus Jupiter conjunction is happening exactly at where the first halving happened at 21 degrees of Taurus in 2020. So it's going to trigger that first halving.
Yeah. The first halving, the sun was at 21-degree Taurus and the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is at 21-degree Taurus. So it's triggering the same halving. So the results are going to be pretty similar. And look at the moon. The first the first halving, the midheaven was at 9 degrees Virgo, and the moon now is at 11 degrees Virgo with an ascendant at 13 degrees Virgo. So triggering another point from that first
Mm-hmm.
halving. We also
Mm-hmm.
have Pluto triggering Saturn um in Aquarius.
Yeah.
Power in the government. So there's going to be talk. Most likely, there's some type of regulations coming soon. Most likely, it's going to be the result of massive amounts of growth, right? We also have this Mars making a conjunction to Neptune.
Neptune.
Yeah, Neptune's about to exit. It's at 28 degrees. I mean, we only have like a year or so, like maybe 2 years, right? Of Neptune kind of going back and forth.
Back and forth, yeah.
And try to exit Pisces and goes into it goes into Aries, but it's like almost out. It's almost gone from Pisces, and Mars is there triggering the 2020 Neptune placement. So that's really interesting because again, Neptune, it's really indicative in financial astrology of shaking up the stock market and shaking up indexes and things like that. So we're going to see a lot of shakeup with Bitcoin. And remember, um, Bitcoin has a very strong Neptune. It brings that illusion. So Mars is going to bring those dreams, those big dreamers. Let's make money. Let's do this. The taxi drivers, the teachers, the astrologers, the students. Let's do it. Let's all invest and let's make money. I mean, why not? 100, whatever you make, you can reinvest it in something else and then, make your money grow from there.
Yeah.
So as long as you reinvest it correctly. I also noticed that the sun in Taurus at 0 degrees is making a trine to the south node of the first halving. So
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. So then this is the Bitcoin Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Now, these are some of the things that I've noticed. First, we just recently had an eclipse on April the 8th that was exactly at 19 degrees, which was right on Bitcoin's midheaven. Bitcoin's midheaven is 18 degrees of Aries. So that's already an indicator that Bitcoin is going to shake things up. I mean, it was predicted that it was going to bypass its highest point of 60K, and it did. It's right now currently at like 70K. So actually, just to be completely accurate, let me just pull up what it's at right now. So it's currently at 70K 2025 with 28 cents. That's what it's worth now at this moment. Um, we had an eclipse there. And on the day of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, Venus is actually right on that point. So it's triggering the eclipse point. It's bringing in that eclipse energy. Not Neptune, Mercury had already passed that energy and had triggered it before. It's retro at 16 at this point. So Mercury is going to kind of bypass this point a few times. So it's going to re-trigger the eclipse energy. And that's going to be significant for Bitcoin. We're going to see a lot of changes like over and over every time this gets aggravated. So just kind of watch out for that. Other things that I noticed is the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is conjunct Bitcoin's part of fortune, the moon. It was in early degrees Virgo when Bitcoin halved, but now at the Jupiter Uranus conjunction, it's more closer to Saturn, but it's actually making more of a perfected trine to Jupiter. So it's actually stronger to Jupiter. And let me see what else I noticed that's significant.
It's trining its Saturn. The Jupiter Uranus conjunction, it's trining Bitcoin Saturn exactly at 21 degrees.
Yes, it is. It's shining the Saturn exactly at 21 degrees. And
And
it's
Mars is opposing that. It's Mars is triggering Bitcoin's Uranus and opposing Saturn.
yes. Yes, and they're about to have a Saturn opposition.
Yeah, soon.
Yes, that's coming up soon. In the 14-year cycle for them. Um, which is not now, but it's coming up soon. Which is a pivotal point in a business. So you're also gonna see more growth there. Especially because the business is doing good. So you're gonna see a lot more return in their growth and things like that. Another thing that I noticed is the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is making a square to the Neptune. So now, although Jupiter and Pluto make millionaires, Jupiter and Neptune make billionaires. Remember, Neptune rules the oceans, and there's more ocean than land on
Yeah,
Earth.
it's boundless.
Yeah. We haven't even discovered all the oceans. So we haven't gone deep. So then you talk about Uranus. Uranus is like the ether, the sky, the space. I mean, the space is also boundless.
Yeah.
And then and then you combine Jupiter and you're just like Jupiter rules everything. You kind of bring these three together, and I kind of feel like these three are the trillionaire aspect, honestly. So, um, even though this is not what I was planning to talk about, like this is a download I'm getting right now. These three are the trillionaire aspect. Because think about it. Let's talk about their mythology. So, Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune So Uranus is the grandfather of both Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto. And Pluto and Neptune were swallowed by Saturn, and Jupiter and the sisters too, which are the asteroids, but I'm not going to talk about the sisters because we're not talking about them. But either way, Pluto, not Pluto, Jupiter was the one that went to go save his brothers from Saturn. So we went to go fight Saturn. Saturn threw them up, and then all of them fought Saturn. And then Jupiter gained kingdom, like he gained his kingdom, he gained kingdomship over his kingdom, he became the new king, he dethroned Saturn. And this is why Jupiter and Saturn are enemies. So he's friend to Uranus because he's his that's his grandfather, yet Jupiter knows what his grandfather did because his grandfather actually did something um not too similar to Saturn, but he has his own mythology where Saturn had to castrate him because Uranus was taking advantage of Saturn's mom. But then Saturn became like his father. So either way, um then Uranus then became the ruler of the sky and the ether, and he separated himself from the earth and promised never to do that again. And then Saturn was the ruler of the earth, and then he started swallowing his kids and didn't allow any of his kids to grow into their own right until Jupiter came along. Then from there, when they won the war, then Jupiter became the king and he had rulership over the land. He's technically the king of everything, but then he assigned his brothers like a kingdom. It's like, okay, I'm pretty much the king of everything because he's Zeus, right? Or Zeus, whatever. But he'll say, okay, Neptune, you're the king of the ocean, and I'll allow you to coexist with me. Just spread your water throughout the land, make lakes and rivers, and do that because Neptune was upset. He's like, well, why do you get to be king of everything? You're the youngest. Blah, 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 blah. But Neptune wasn't as reasonable as Jupiter. So Jupiter knew Neptune could not be the king of everything. Neptune has a lot of mythology of taking advantage of women, so he could not be the king of everything. Either way, Pluto was too dark. He was the oldest and he had spent the most time in Saturn's stomach, so he had the most trauma, and that's why he became the king of the underworld, where all the jewels and the gold and the stones and the diamonds and the wealth is at. So he was okay with being the king of the underworld, and that's also where the souls belong, right? So now, when you look at that and you see Jupiter aspecting Pluto, this is why it makes sense that Jupiter and Pluto signify millionaires in astrology because Pluto is where all the wealth is at. And when Jupiter is abundance because it's everything, it multiplies that wealth, even if it's in bad aspect. You'll just see that these people kind of have lessons around valuing money. So if you have a Jupiter square Pluto, a lot of the times they'll fluctuate in their wealth. They'll have periods where they have a lot of money and then periods where they don't. Eventually they get it back. So there's like rags to riches over and over until they value their money. But there's always like a challenge, even with the opposition, similar easy money conjunctions, easy money sextiles and trines, or things just come to them like easily and naturally. It's just like blessed, blessed, blessed. Or they come from families that are well off, things like that. From generations too. Generational money. It's just handed down because they're blessed that way. But when you see Jupiter aspecting Neptune, this is immense amount of money. And you see this in a lot of the billionaires charts, children of billionaires, because it's so much that you can't even think of. So now you throw in Uranus, and this is like even more, you're not just bringing the water, you're also bringing another side. So I think we're going to see trillionaires being born. Right now we're talking about like Elon Musk being a billionaire, and who else we have. What other billionaires do we have? Can we name a few, Emma? We have
Pesos.
yeah, Bezos. He's definitely going to be like a trillionaire. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we're most likely in this decade, we're gonna see trillionaires being born for sure. And this is gonna
Yeah.
start it. There's just no doubt in my mind at all.
Another one is Facebook guy, Zuckerberg.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Zuckerberg, yes. Yes. And actually Zuckerberg, he was born during the he was born the same year I was born. He has a Jupiter Neptune conjunction.
Hmm.
So he already has the billionaires aspect in his chart.
Hmm.
Yep. So let's see how this is playing out. And he's a Taurus too. He's a Taurus sun. So I mean
Also, it's triggering him.
it's triggering him. And he was born in 84 like me, so I know where his Jupiter and Neptune are they're in Capricorn. So he literally this is and he was born like around this time. I think his birthday is April 4th, honestly.
Let me Google.
Yeah, it's April 4th. So he's having his solar return around this time. So he's probably going to be one of the ones too that gets affected by this. Becomes a trillionaire.
May 14 is his birthday.
May 14th? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I say April 4th?
Yeah.
Yeah, May 14th. Okay. I meant to say May 4th and it came out April 4th. Okay, May 14th. Yeah. So either way,
Yeah.
um, the thing that I pointed out here is the eye configuration. So the eye configuration likes to collect data, and you can see that is pointing to that eclipse pointing to that Venus point. And at the end of the podcast, we have some dates that are going to keep triggering this 19-degree, which is where Bitcoin's midheaven is. So I mean, we have to watch this. We have to keep on looking at this point. We have to see these dates. You're going to see fluctuations all over the market. You're going to see a lot of changes during this time as well because of um the the information that's happening. So be watchful during this time, collect info, like see what's going on. Now with eye configurations, we have to see how it is that um the information gets out because an eye is like looking, right? I'm looking to see what you're doing. I'm watching you, right? And then you take action. So we have to see if there's a way to express out, and we already analyzed that. Jupiter is making a trine to Saturn, so there is a way of expression out. It's also making a trine to the moon, right? At the same time, the transiting moon. So it makes another trine to over here to the Jupiter, even Juno, or we want to include this point, the sun. So there's ways of expression. So it's not just the semi-sextile to Venus and then Venus semi-sextile here and only the sextile from Uranus to Mars. No, there's ways that this Jupiter Uranus is able to express out to the rest of the chart. And even Mars is able to express out through this opposition because it's making a opposition to Saturn and it made an opposition to the moon as well and to Lilith. So Lilith is also there. And it made an opposition to that Uranus as well. So there's ways of whatever is being collected during this time, absorb, like analyzed, and it's able to then take action and out. You didn't just look and not do anything about it. So there's things that are able to assist in you taking action. So do your homework, especially if this is the time that you wanted to start investing in Bitcoin. I honestly think you can still it's still gonna go up. You're not gonna see as big as profits if you would have joined earlier. But this is your other opportunity. And I'm gonna just talk quick about Ethereum because this is another coin that is going to go up and it's not as expensive right now as Bitcoin. And it's gonna have a lot of potential for growth as well. So if we look at Ethereum, um the eclipse happened on their Uranus, so it's also very close again 19 degrees where the eclipse happens, so it's triggering that point of what as well. Jupiter is their ruler, the ruler of their ascendant. They also have a very strong Jupiter. It's a fire Jupiter. They have a sun in Leo. So there's like a lot of points here too that you can see that Ethereum is going to benefit a lot from this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, and this is their chart here. So just really quickly, um we see again Venus triggering that Uranus. So again, Venus rules money, value. So again, they're getting impacted. Something's happening. They also are forming that grand Earth trine, same way like Bitcoin. They have a Capricorn moon, and this is making a trine to the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. That Jupiter Uranus conjunction is making a conjunction to their part of fortune. And then that in turn is making a trine to their natal midheaven. It's making a trine to the transiting moon. That moon is trining this moon. The midheaven is being trined by Pluto. Pluto's also in the mix. Not, it's pretty far from the transiting moon, but it's still there. So there's just a lot of things. You can see a lot of the like kind of similar aspects, even though they were established in totally different years. July 30th of 2015, and Bitcoin was in June 3rd of 2009, right?
January 3rd of 2009.
Thank you. January 3rd of 2009. So totally different years, um, months and everything. And you still see a lot of like similar points, even though there's different planets, it's still the same points. Now, this is a chart that I put both Bitcoin and Ethereum's chart together. So we have Bitcoin's chart inside and Ethereum's chart outside. So Ethereum, Bitcoin. And I just wanted to show you all the synchronicities that Emma and I noticed. So I've been talking. Emma, go ahead.
Yeah, so when we look at Bitcoin and Ethereum together, there's actually a lot of similarities and synchronicities between the two charts. First of all, Ethereum's Pluto at 13 degrees is conjunct Bitcoin's Sun at 13 degrees. Then we have Ethereum's Moon at 25 Capricorn, which is pretty close to Bitcoin's Jupiter at 29. We also have Bitcoin's Saturn at 21, which is close to Ethereum's midheaven at 19 degrees Virgo. And Ethereum's Sun at 7 degrees Leo is conjunct Bitcoin's ascendant at 8 degrees and very close to the South Node also at 10 degrees Leo. And even Ethereum's South Node is conjunct Bitcoin's moon at 4 degrees of Aries. So there's a lot of synchronicities, and even the part of fortune, both part of fortune are very close together. Bitcoin has his part of fortune at 17 Taurus, while Ethereum is 18 Taurus. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, because the part of fortune is a calculation of the ascendant, sun, and moon. And they have different like ascendant combinations, yet there's some like the same, like a sun in a Capricorn, a moon in Capricorn, um, a sun in Leo, and ascendant in Leo,
Yeah.
a moon in Aries, and then what's the other ascendant? Ascendant in Sagittarius. So that's the only different thing I guess they have, and it ended up calculating to this Taurus part of fortune. But one last thing too that I noticed is that Uranus is conjunct Bitcoin's midheaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you as you can see, even though different dates, totally different dates, there's still so many points, so many synchronicities, and even like exact things. It's not just like, oh, look, it's conjunct and it's like a few degrees away. No, there's a lot of pretty exact things, like especially like the sun, Pluto aspect, the ascendant in the sun aspect, Uranus in the midheaven. I mean, the moon in the south node, um, Saturn in the midheaven. There's just too many.
Mm.
It's just a lot of stuff. And we're like,
And
okay, look at this.
yeah, and this is why also like when there's a transit, like when it triggers one chart, it triggers the other's chart as well.
Exactly, exactly. So this is why both of them are going to get triggered. So we went ahead and placed both. This is Bitcoin's chart, Ethereum's chart, and then now we have the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And then from there, we're like, okay, so we know for sure you're gonna get some money based on Bitcoin, especially if you're gonna be patient and you're gonna leave it there. You're gonna see it fluctuate. I mean, aside from astrology, we already have a lot of financial advisors and financial columns and magazines and people that actually study the stock market really predicting that Bitcoin's going to grow to more than 100K. Like, and if you're willing to wait, like just say you're in your early 20s, 30s, 40s, and you're like, hey, I want to invest in this because in my like early retirement years, I want to have like a little nice nest egg in Bitcoin and then be able to retire well and use that. And you have other retirements too, right? 401k, other things, IRAs, whatever else you want to get into. Um, just be patient with it. Do your research, right? And you'll see that you'll have a nice return. It's Capricorn energy, long-term energy. Ethereum is pretty similar. It has a moon in Capricorn. Its PowerPoint is Pluto. It's in Capricorn too. Um, Now it has a lot of Leo energy. So I think with Ethereum, you have a little bit more control, but it's not going to grow. I think it'll grow a little bit more, not as big, yet I guess the growth, what I'm trying to say, it's going to be more like you're going to be able to grow and cash out like faster and it's going to be more stabilized versus as volatile that Bitcoin's been. Because Bitcoin has gone from like 20 to 60K in a matter of months, and that's super volatile.
To back down to 30K.
Exactly. And Ethereum hasn't done that type. Like it has gone up and down, but you're not talking from 20 to 60K. You're talking about like a few thousand, not
Yeah.
even like 1,000 difference. So it's much more manageable. Um, so what I was looking at to see if there was any of like, the millionaire aspects, if you're really able to bank on having, either making more money off Bitcoin or making more money off Ethereum. And what I looked at is this midpoint here. So Pluto is not super close to this point of the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Um, but because the moon is closer, then the moon kind of brings in the energy of Pluto and Uranus. And the moon is friend to Jupiter. Jupiter is actually exalted in the sign of the moon. And the moon is exalted in the sign that Jupiter is in. So you already have a friendship between, they're like, hey, you're my favorite sign. And then the Jupiter's like, oh, you're the ruler of my favorite vacation place, so it's like they have something they want to talk about and they're very close to each other. So even though it's not exact, then I can consider using the midpoint. So we look at the midpoint, it brings this Jupiter um conjunction much closer, much tighter. So I can tell you that if you invest in Ethereum, you probably have more chances of making more money versus than making more money off Bitcoin. It doesn't mean you won't make money off Bitcoin if you invest in Bitcoin. I think you can. I would put a little bit of both, but I think Ethereum is also a good runner up, honestly. And it might be more affordable for some, depending on how much you're willing to invest. So that would be something you might want to consult with your financial advisor and, check out. But Ethereum definitely will be growing as well. You see the connections. And I mean, usually a lot of the Bitcoin investors, they're investing in both. They're not just investing in Bitcoin. You see them investing in Ethereum, and there's a lot of other coins that we were kind of contemplating, should we bring them in and talk about them? And we're like, we're gonna make this too long. So no, let's just focus on these two major ones because we just saw so many synchronicities in them in both of the charts. But I mean, there's other coins that are dependent on how Bitcoin performs. So even though they're independent of each other, um, because of how, like how Emma said, how connected they are, whenever there are transits, you see growth in both because of the similarities, the energy, the blueprint that they carry.
Yeah.
So some of the significant dates that we want you to be mindful of, we're not going to cover these because we go into a different month, but we do want to, make you aware of them, bring them into your consciousness, and then you can do your own research. We'll cover them at a later time. We have Mercury retro, triggering the eclipse point. And yes, I spelt eclipse incorrect, but I spelt it right here.
It's
Sorry.
Mercury retro.
It is a Mercury retro. And remember, I told you guys I am a Mercury Aries native, and it acts like a retro because I do things so fast and I hate spell check. And even though I know how to use it, I don't use it, and it's okay. And I also have Mercury square my Neptune. And I
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
that's a big one.
yes, I just embrace it. I just love it. I just say, you know what? It's me. It's all right. It's
Yeah.
okay. I know how to spell. I really do. See, I spelled it right here. It's not a spelling issue. It's like I instead, like, when I was typing it, I like my hands were so fast because it's Aries. I clicked the L before the C, and that's what it was. It wasn't that I was spelling it wrong. It's an Aries thing. Yes, I have Mercury in Aries because I transpose. I transpose words all the time. Either way, Mercury retro will trigger this 19-degree point, and that's important because that was where the eclipse happened. And again, this is very close to what all those points that we pointed out in both Bitcoin and Ethereum's chart. Bitcoin's midheaven and Ethereum's Uranus. Then we have Bitcoin again at 19 degree. At this point, it's not retro anymore. It's going forward, right? It ended its retro, and now it's triggering that point again. Then we have Mars at 19 degrees, triggering the eclipse point. Luckily, Mars is not retroing this year in
And
Aries.
Mars loves to be in Aries.
Yes, I know Mars does love to be in Aries, but I was just like, thank goodness it's not retro. So yeah, but that's in May 25th. So we'll talk about that later. But just, put it in your consciousness. You're gonna see the markets. Just
And this is also the week that I was telling you about, Chris, where Jupiter is going to trine Bitcoin's natal Jupiter.
oh wow, see, so lots of good things happening this week. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so jot that down. Oh yeah, it's right before because Jupiter will go into it's already going in Gemini here. So right before Jupiter goes into Gemini at 29 degrees
29.
Taurus, it makes that trine to Bitcoin's Jupiter.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
exact date is May 23rd.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And then after that, shortly after, like Mars will go like at 27 degrees, they'll make a trine to Ethereum's Jupiter. So Mars will
Yeah.
trine Ethereum's Jupiter. Interesting. Then we have the sun triggering Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So the sun will be at 21 degrees, and this is May 11th. So it'll trigger the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. So just, take note of that. And then lastly, we have the Sun Uranus cazimi. This is when the Sun and Uranus conjunct. You know what? I think I I think I might have grabbed the wrong time. It's a little off, but it's the same day. So the time's off, but it's the same day. See, the minutes are off. So the chart's gonna be off, but it's still gonna be the same day. But we'll go over that later in May either way. So just remember the date, May 13th. And then we have the sun Jupiter Kazemi on May the 18th, when Jupiter and the sun conjunct at 28 degrees 18, which almost make an exact trine to Bitcoin's 29-degree
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn Jupiter. So my predictions to for the Bitcoin Jupiter Uranus Kazemi, I mean not Kazemi, Uranus conjunction. Um, you're going to see a lot of fluctuation where it's going to go up, then it's going to dip down, then it's going to go up again and grow, 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 grow. I really do think that it's going to go over 100K. um I just don't see how it's not based on all these alignments. I mean, there's just so many. Jupiter Uranus is already exaggerating. Venus is there, is the planet of abundance. Then Jupiter is also very close during that. Like, it's like there's just so many planets of expansion. Then we also have Mars really close, triggering like the eclipse. It's in eclipse point, it's in Aries. It's just so many things. I just can't wait to actually see what happens, honestly, because it's just crazy energy. Other things too, look, the moon. So now that I know this is off, it's probably going to move a couple hours, and this moon's probably going to be even closer to Bitcoin's ascendant.
Ascendant. Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy, just crazy stuff. And then on this day, this moon's exactly opposite to Bitcoin's moon,
Yeah.
making a
Yeah.
full,
4 degrees. Yeah.
yeah, making an exact full moon aspect. It's a moon, but it's like the opposite side. So it's like a full moon aspect to its moon. Crazy. It's just a lot of craziness. And look at Mars right on Rahu, just like chomp, chomp, chomp. Just no, just a lot of stuff. Like it's too much. We're gonna see a lot of fluctuation. We just talked about Bitcoin, but I mean, there's gonna be a lot of fluctuation in all the markets. A very, very, very bullish market, but we're getting prepared for a period of a very bearish market that is coming up. And I really think that's going to happen. Based on what I'm seeing, what I've been looking at, and we're going to talk about this later. I'm predicting like late June, early July, all the way through October. So we're going to see that slow down. Um, and then we have the elections coming up. I don't want to
This
talk.
year, I feel like this year is really a lot astrologically.
Yes, and then when you think about it, like Aries was just like there was just a lot of astrology, and so we just talked about the eclipse and everything, but we're gonna see the effects of this eclipse show up during the Libra season.
Yeah. Yeah. The fall. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another
Mhm.
set of eclipse right there.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it's just crazy. And I'm just it's kind of giving me, and honestly, I don't get anxiety over that stuff. I just about it, I'm getting anxiety, and I'm like, oh, why? Relax, Crystal. It's all right. But I don't know why this time around it's making me feel anxiety. Like honestly, it really is. So, not in a bad way where I'm like scared or anything. I just feel like there's just gonna be so much energy, that it's that type of anxiety where it's like, oh,
Well, the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is triggering your moon, no?
um,
Don't you have a
yes,
19
yes,
degree moon?
it's triggering my moon and my sun.
Yeah.
It's trining my moon and sextiling my sun. And Mars is about to conjunct my sun. Saturn is a little far, and I want Saturn to stay away from my sun for a while, but he's coming.
Ugh, get ready.
I know
I
he's a
went through that. I graduated. Now it's all yours.
yeah, he's a coming, and I know it. I mean, well, you know what he's doing now? Saturn is actually making a trine to my natal Saturn. So
Oh,
he's still doing stuff in my chart. Yeah, because I have Saturn at 16 degrees in Scorpio. So that Saturn Mars conjunction just trined my Saturn. I mean, Saturn never leaves me alone.
yeah, me either.
Yeah, he always wants to do something to me. And it's fine. It's fine. I love him. I love I love you, Saturn.
Well, for me, it's getting ready to square my ascendant
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
19 degrees Gemini. It's getting ready. I
Oh.
don't catch a break with Saturn.
Yeah, I feel like I don't catch a break either, so that's why I have to tell him I love him. I was like, I love you, Saturn. Just wait.
I had to put Saturn as my profile picture on my like my background picture on my phone for a while. When he was conjunct my son, I'm like, you have to be nice. So I'm gonna like make you my background picture and carry
You're,
you with me all the time.
you're my BFF. Honestly, that's a good remedy.
Yeah.
That's like a really, really, or like Saturnian things, like rocks, like mountains, a sea goat, all that, or a glyph, or you create a glyph for him. Yeah, for sure. Right now I have Pluto, so just Pluto's opposing my descendant and my ascendant. He's on my descendant. So I was like, just be nice to me, Pluto. So that's who I'm worried about right now. I just had my Pluto square right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
in a retro. So
And it's gonna stay. Yeah, it's gonna be like that for all of this year, next year.
hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think Saturn is the least of my worries. No, and Neptune, a Cazimi, like Neptune conjunct my sun. Ah, this is it. I'm not complaining. I'm fine.
We're good.
Good. Yes, it's good. We're all good. My life is good. Everything's good. I love Neptune. I love Pluto. I love Saturn. I love all the lessons. I love you guys. Thank you. I just love it. Okay. So, really quickly, lastly, we're gonna leave with a Taurus ritual, and it's super suited for doing it either on the day that the sun goes into Taurus, or if you want to wait for the Jupiter Taurus conjunction. And this is I have energy. So start thinking about what it is that you want. So, especially if you're going to invest in something, maybe just imagine that investment growing and see yourself like happily always contributing to it. Like if you're paying a bill, like, oh, I'm so happy to always like buy like every single check I'm gonna buy $50 of it, or like whatever amount you decided, and you're manifesting this. You're like picturing yourself doing it, um and just continuing to do it over and over and over. And then from there, picture the amount in your third eye. You're gonna picture that amount. Um, I want you to picture this. I think I again we said long term, but I know a lot of us want to at least see some type of results. So picture this amount and imagine yourself seeing this amount at least by Capricorn season. And we want to align it to Capricorn season because that's the energy of Bitcoin, right? So especially if you're going to invest in Bitcoin. So align it to Capricorn season, and Capricorn. So Bitcoin's sun is at 13 degrees. So that's like really close to New Year's Day. So just imagine yourself like on New Year's Day, like checking your thing and it's this much money. You're like super happy because it's growing and, just like envision the whole thing. Like your investment is growing and like put it very clear. I invested. So you do the math. Like an example, if you're going to invest $50 every 2 weeks. So that's going to be $100 a month. And today we're in April. So we only have what, 7 months left. So it's times seven, that's going to be 700. And then you want this to grow to just say what amount? Tell me, Emma.
10,000. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, so 10,000. So if you want this to grow to 10,000. So then you're going to imagine 10,000 there. And you're going to imagine like I put 7,000 and it just multiplied. So you just not 7,000, 700. You just imagine like putting down your money and it's growing, 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 growing. And you're seeing the 10,000 pop up. And you see this in your third eye, right? And then you light your candle and you're setting your intentions. And then you say, so it is. And it is. Now, if you want to amplify this even more, if you own any type of Venus crystal bracelet or like a charm, like a necklace, I would something that you want to wear until then. You don't have to wear every single day, but wear it as often as possible as a reminder. Then I will combine it with that. So what you do, especially if you have a like Emma's candle or a candle very similar to Emma's, where it's a jar, you want to get the bracelet and you're gonna roll it over the jar. So what you're doing is you're having the candle, like the bracelet go over the candle, and then when you turn on the candle, like it's getting infused by that energy, right? The bracelet's like on it, the candle's on, it's like getting charged by that intention. Then when you're done, you turn off your candle, you put on your bracelet, you're going to wear it. And every time you look at that bracelet, that same visualization, you see the money 100 and until 700, right? Every time 100, like if you're like counting the money, and then you look up at a screen, your phone screen, or like wherever you have your money, and you just see $10,000 and you're so excited. Hopefully I gave you a good visual. I want you to think of that over and over and over. Every time you look at your bracelet, it's that reminder over and over and over. And every time you see it, you're manifesting that, like how you feel, how proud you are. And then at that point, are you going to continue? Is this a habit? Are you continuing this, or are you going to cash out? Or you're like, oh, I made my 10,000, I'm happy. Or you're going to continue letting it grow. You're like, now I'm going to grow my 10,000 to 100,000. I'm going to continue putting now, instead of doing 100 a month, I want to do 300 a month. And then you imagine yourself, but that's a different manifestation at that point, right? Now you're doing 300, 300, 300, and you're going to see that that then goes to 100,000. So then maybe at that point you want to cash out because you want to buy a house. I don't know. We're talking about manifesting then. But at this point where you're at now, do this. Now, if you already did these little baby steps and you are now working at bigger numbers, then do that bigger manifestation. So whatever matches you, take it from there. But just imagine it like that. And then check in during Capricorn. I would do it during Capricorn new moon when you check in. So you can check the date on a calendar, Google when is the Capricorn new moon 2024, and that's when you check. Okay. So that is my suggestion for the Taurus ritual. And if you have a bracelet that's jade, green aventurine, rose quartz, malachite, moonstone would be good too. Mm, any pink stone, like um um like pink water, pink tourmaline, what's another one? Rhodonite.
Yeah.
Yeah, rhodonite. All those are Venus stones. So you can use them, just amplify Taurus energy even more. You don't have to just use those, um, but it just makes the manifestation even more amplified because it's a crystal that's tied into the energy of Venus. So, um,
Green Green Aventurine and Jade are actually my favorite for Taurus season.
yes.
I always work with those. Actually, right now I have a necklace with malachite on as we're talking.
Yes, and actually for Taurus season, what I like to wear is I have a jade and pearl bracelet, and it has little gold separators. And it's a genuine jade one. I got it years ago and I paid a good penny for it. Um, but like I always put it away nicely because it's real, it has real pearls and it's real jade and it's really good. Pearls are also a good one for Taurus season because the moon rules pearls and the moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus. So you're then pulling in also the energy of the moon, and we usually manifest with the moon. So you're
Yeah.
pulling the moon's manifestation power and its exaltation power and the season. So it's like a whammy. And I just love jade. I love jade. And I love malachite. You know that. Malachite's like
Yeah.
my BFF. But that's what I like to wear, like all the green stones during Taurus season. I just love them. I have all sorts of I love all the stones. I don't discriminate any of them. I'm like, crystals are all beautiful, even the ugly ones. There's no ugly ones. And the ugly ones to me would be like, the black looking ones, but they're not ugly. They're just not like nice colors. Like that's what I consider ugly. Like right? Like wouldn't be like that it's ugly. Or like rocks, but they're still beautiful. It's just a Saturnian one. But yeah. Either way, but yeah, those are good choices, Emma. Jade and you said jade and green adventuring, huh? That's what you
Yeah.
I like those. What do you put on your Taurus candle for the membership?
It's Green Aventurine actually.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought you put that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, if you guys want her candle, Cosmic is the code. And then we link the link in the description. And I also type it out so you guys can always put that in. And yeah, check out her candles. They're very inexpensive and they smell amazing. Trust me, you will love them. So thank you so, so much for being here. This was amazing, Emma. Thank you for joining me again. I
Thank
love
you for having me, Chris. This was really fun and very different from the ones that we usually do.
yes.
Again, we're not financial advisors. So this was purely because, it is tourist season and we both enjoy, you know, um, watching Bitcoin and, investing in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we just wanted to share our little fascination with it. And we're like, why not? Let's just do it. So it was fun. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. And I hope
thank
you
you.
guys enjoy it. And good luck out there.
Good luck.
Yeah,
Bye.
that's Jupiter energy. Good luck. Bye.